Story 29, The Doll in the Snow, Part 1. The ski retreat was invitation only, the kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. Tucked high in the mountains, reachable only by private road or helicopter, it catered to people who preferred silence over crowds and discretion over luxury. The luxury was everywhere. The chalets were built from dark timber and stone, fireplaces always lit, staff nearly invisible. No children were allowed. That rule was printed plainly in the welcome packet. On the third morning, after a night of heavy snowfall, Eleanor went out to ski alone. The sky was pale and overcast, the world muffled and clean, every sound swallowed by fresh powder. She liked the quiet. It reminded her that no one could reach her here. Halfway down an unused trail, she saw something dark against the white. At first she thought it was a fallen branch, then she noticed the shape. A doll lay half buried in the snow. It was small, no more than a foot long, dressed in an old-fashioned wool coat and lace-trimmed boots. Its porcelain face was pale, almost blue from the cold, eyes closed as if sleeping. Snow clung to its eyelashes. Eleanor looked around. No tracks, no signs anyone had been there before her. She laughed uneasily. Someone must have brought it as a joke, she told herself, or a wealthy guest's strange sense of humor. Still, she couldn't leave it there. She brushed the snow from its dress and tucked it under her arm, feeling a strange reluctance, as though she were lifting something fragile and alive. Back at her chalet, she set the doll by the fireplace to dry. As the room warmed, she noticed details she hadn't before. Tiny cracks in the porcelain skin, hand-painted veins along the temples, lips tinted a deep rose that felt too vivid. Its eyes remained shut. That night, Eleanor dreamed of snow falling inside her room. Thick flakes drifted down, piling against the walls. In the dream, she was buried up to her knees, holding the doll, begging it to open its eyes. She woke just before dawn. The doll was standing on the windowsill. She told herself she must have moved it. Sleepwalking, maybe. Stress did strange things. At breakfast, she asked one of the staff if any guests had brought a doll. The woman paused for just a second too long. "No," she said, "we don't allow children's items." "But it was outside," Eleanor insisted, "on the mountain." The woman smiled politely. "Nothing is ever left on the mountain." That afternoon, Eleanor left the doll on the table and she went skiing again. When she returned, it was seated in the armchair, facing the door. Its eyes were open. They were dark glass, glossy and deep, reflecting the firelight and her. She backed away, heart pounding. The doll's mouth had changed. She was sure of it. The lips curved slightly now, not quite a smile, but close. She wrapped it in a blanket and shoved it into the closet, shutting the door hard. That night, she heard soft sounds beneath the wind outside, a faint tapping, then the creak of porcelain joints. What sounded like a whisper threaded through the room, thin and cracked, like ice shifting on a frozen lake. Eleanor sat up in bed, listening. The fire had burned down to embers. The room smelled faintly of cold, though the windows were shut. The sound came again, closer this time, not footsteps, something lighter, a careful shifting, as if an object were being moved by hands that did not belong to anyone in the room. She searched for the lamp. The light revealed the doll, seated on the rug at the foot of the bed. Its eyes were open now. Eleanor stared at it, heart hammering, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. The doll remained perfectly still. She wrapped it in a blanket and carried it back to the closet, shutting the door with more force than necessary. Sleep did not come. In the morning, she found snow on the inside of the window glass. Not frost, snow, as if the storm had pressed itself through the pane and left a thin drift along the sill. At breakfast, she searched the retreat's small library for anything older than the curated histories displayed in the lobby. A leather-bound guest ledger sat forgotten on a lower shelf. Halfway through the book, the entries stopped being neat. One name appeared again and again in different hands on different dates. A child. The final entry was short. Disappeared during a storm. Searched until nightfall. No body recovered. Eleanor closed the book. When she returned to her chalet, the doll was no longer in the closet. She found it outside. It sat upright in the snow near the tree line, positioned carefully as if placed there rather than dropped. Snow gathered around it, not on it. The doll's dress was dry. She noticed then that its coat was too well made, not a toy's imitation, but real wool, real buttons, something once meant to keep a child warm. Behind it, leading into the trees, were shallow depressions in the snow. Not footprints, marks where something had been dragged. Eleanor did not follow them. She left the retreat that afternoon, her departure unannounced. Weeks later, she would read a quiet notice buried in the society pages, a brief mention of a historical correction made by the resort, an acknowledgement of a disappearance long denied. No details, no apology. The old trails remain closed now after storms. Still, staff sometimes find a porcelain doll near the boundary ropes when the snow melts. Always seated, always clean, and no matter how many times it is removed, by morning it is back.